Is this guitar too moist? Oh, hey, sorry. You just caught me in my basement eating cheese puffs. So I went and did it. I decided that I wasn't exactly happy with all this moisture talk and wet wood and all that. So I ponied up $279 or something for a pinless moisture meter. Has a little sensor on the back. You lay it flat on the wood, whatever it is you're testing, and it supposedly gives you a very accurate reading, and it can go either, there's two different settings on it. It can go 1/4 inch deep or 3/4 of an inch. Guitar bodies are usually 1 3/4 inches, so that should get you pretty much to the center, almost to the center of the guitar. And then you take, you know, like if it were a flat, it needs to be flat though. The arch top on the Les Paul style guitars is a little difficult. It's hard to get a good reading from the top because you're supposed to take reading on thick pieces of material. You're supposed to take a reading from you know, the top and the bottom, and then average those two. So we're going to talk about this device, and we're going to pull up some pieces of wood and a couple of guitars. You're going to be pretty surprised by one of these guitars. And then we're going to talk about how everything that I did in my video and Dylan Talks Tone did in his video is basically pointless. and I'll explain why when we get into that. So let's check this out. I'm going to talk about this device, and we'll test some guitars and some wood and see what we come up with. Okay, so let's talk about this little device first of all. This is a Bessimeter pinless moisture meter, and what it says it does is it approximates the full thickness cross-section method per the ASTM-D4442 oven dry method. So it's basically approximating or simulating a oven dry method of determining moisture content. It says the ASTM standard, along with its international counterparts, is the standard for comparison of all wood moisture meters for accuracy. With proper use of your meter each time you take a measurement, you are assured of getting an excellent representation of the true moisture content of your wood sample. Your Bessimeter pinless meter is capable of measuring moisture content in a range from 6% to 32%. Measurement range may vary slightly depending on the species setting that you are using for your wood sample. Your meter provides an easy-to-read digital display with readings in 0.1% increments. Okay, so just like the little pin meter that I got, the same one that Dylan Talks Tone had, you have to tell it what wood you're using. Okay, there's different settings on here. There's wall, which is for drywall. There's paper, obviously for paper. And then 4 wood modes. And the wood modes correspond to different species of wood. I'm assuming densities of wood because it sends an electrical current through, you know, through these pins. So like right now, you can see I'm at 18.9%. You know, my finger's at 16, 17, 8, 13. So look at it, it's all over the place. 15%. So it's sending a signal through, and it's measuring, measuring the wood. So on this little pin one, there's a chart in here with different types of wood. Brazilian walnut tree, walnut, Afromosia, who knows what that is a 1. Brazilian walnut tree is 1, wood 1, walnut is 2, white poplar is 2, fir is 3, Douglas fir is 3, ash is 3, maple is 3, basswood is 4, birch is 4, white pine is 4. So maybe it doesn't have to do with density. It seems like white pine and ash would be, the ash would be more dense than white pine. Maybe it's how the tree conducts the electricity. I don't know. So anyway, these things, especially the inexpensive ones, from what I'm reading on the internet, can be notoriously inaccurate. And if you don't use them correctly, they're even more so. So this one seems to me to be pretty foolproof. Plus, you don't have to screw up your wood sample to use it. And I don't know. I'm going to be doing, I do woodworking a little bit here and there, so hopefully this will be this will be useful. Otherwise, it's a almost $300 paperweight just to prove a point. So how smart am I? Anyway, so let's I want to go through a couple. Let me get this camera going. So I'm going to go through a couple samples. So this is a body I got from Guitar Fetish. So some context. Here's another thing. Let me go off on a tangent real quick. One of the reasons that I find all this to be completely pointless is because, after I got this and started testing some guitars in my studio, I began to realize that they're all different. And then the moisture content seems to be high, but it's 60% humidity in here. I can even grab the, since nobody believes anything that you tell them when you're making these videos. Okay, so it's 55%. 55% humidity in the studio. And the funny thing is that's over there. If I put this thing on my desk, it goes down. So it's drier here on my desk. Maybe it's because the fan from the computer is coming off or whatever. But I'll set it here and it'll move, it'll change. And the guitars are different. And then this thing had been sitting out in the garage. The garage probably is maybe 70, 80% humidity. It's warm in there. I have an air conditioner out there and a heater, but I haven't been running it. I haven't been running the air this year because I haven't been working out there this year. And so this has been sitting out in the garage. And I brought it inside when I did the video. So for about a week it's been in the studio. So because somebody was going on and on about how, you can't, that meter reading is wrong, and I don't know. So, but I'll get to the point about why none of this really matters here in a second. So let me test this thing again. So this is ash, so that's got to be on wood 3. So I'm on wood 3. My camera doesn't focus automatically. Let's put it down here. Wood 3. So I'm going to stick it in the pickup cavity, which already has a ton of holes in it. And it's 8.0 is or 7 point. Well, see, it moves around when you put it in there. So 8.1. You can press hold on it, but I want you to see, that I'm actually doing this. Okay, so there, hold. 8.2. Okay. So there you go. 8.2 in the right there. And like I said, these pins, I mean, the furthest you could stick these things in is maybe 1/4 of an inch. but you know, wood is pretty dense, so it's, you know, unless it's poplar or some really soft wood. Okay, so we're gonna turn this thing on. And then this has a chart too, a species list. So we have to go into the manual here. This is ash. I'm assuming it's white ash. So 0.6 on the species calibration. So you gotta bump that up to 0.6. Not that it means anything to you guys because you don't have this thing and whatever. So then you have to sit. Now, here's another thing. With this device, it has to go with in it. Okay, real quick. The pin one, you have to be, I don't even know how to explain it, like perpendicular to the grain, parallel to, because when Dylan had done his, he had stuck it in to the neck this way. So the pins were both in a same grain line, and he wasn't getting a reading. And so then he had turned it, and that's where you're supposed to do it in so that it's against the grain. I don't even know how to explain it. You know, so the grain in this is running the length of the neck, and so you're supposed to put so that each pin is in its own grain line, so it doesn't short itself out, I guess, is the thinking. I don't know. Again, not an expert on these things. You know, first time I've ever used one was when I bought it to do this ridiculousness. So anyway, when you're testing something with this meter, there has to be at least an inch of space under it, because it can, I guess it can sense, you know, if there's something under this that is damp, then it'll sense it. So you have to, this has to be an inch up off, you know, off of whatever it is you're measuring. So I'm just going to do it in my lap here. Now you can kind of see. So I've got it in my lap, so there's nothing below it. So now I'm going to set it on, and this has to go with the grain, and this little pad here needs to be flat on the wood. The wood needs to encompass this entire pad here. You couldn't put this on a thin piece of wood if it didn't cover the whole pad, because then it's not reading, you know. So let's see. So I think that's the whole. Okay, so that's 10% according to this meter, which, you know, to me seems awful wet. 10.8. What do we measure in the pocket? 8 something. So let's do the other side, like it said. 13. 9. You know, 4. So let's put it where the neck is, where the neck pocket is. And that says 10. Let's go, you can do a shallower, let's do a shallower reading, because some of these, you know, let's do a shallower reading with it. Because I had that set at 3/4. So we'll do a shallower reading and see what that says. It's even worse. It's 11%, 11%, 13%, 10%, 10%. Okay, so 8.6 on, since now we're going only 1/4 of an inch down, and so the spot that's thinner where the cutout is not as damp. And like I said, this was sitting in the garage, so I'm assuming it absorbed quite a bit of moisture. 10% seems kind of high to me, but then, I mean, look at this. I mean, it's not splitting, it's not separating, it's not warped. You know, it's just a slab of wood. It's pretty stable. Now I can see how a neck would, you know, could, and I can't really do. I got this Firefly neck, which is a great neck, by the way. This thing got some flame maple in it. Let's see if I could do I might be able to do that. This thing only goes to 6, and then there's metal on this side. So I don't know, in the truss rod, so I don't think it's going to measure that. So anyway, here's a slab. This is ash, also white ash, and so we'll do that. And then somebody said that you can't stick it in the end of the wood. It has to go into the sides or the top. So, but I'm going to use this this is for a guitar body, so I don't mess it up. So I'm going to use the sides here. So we'll use the handheld one, wood 3. Let's see if we can get this. It's 6.0. I don't know. You probably couldn't see that. Anyway, 6.0. Okay, so then this one you have to, you do it flat like that. Ash, so it should be on the same thing. So this is 1/4 inch depth, and it's 9. It says 9. So you can see there's like a 3% difference between these two things. And now if I go deeper with this, still says 9. 10 on that side. So 9, 10. And then, so this is set to white ash. But if you picked something out like black ash, let's do that, 0.49. Okay. 13. So it got worse. I don't think this is 13 because it's dry. I've had it for 4 years. 4 years, I think. I think I got these in late 2020, maybe even 2019. So 6 years. And it's been in the garage with all my other wood. So 10, I would say 10, maybe 9% might be accurate. So that, that species setting, I'm pretty sure it's white ash. I mean, I know that much. So 11%, 10%. I would agree with 10%. I think that body is probably 10% internal too. So this thing is pretty off. But like they say, wood dries from the outside in. So the outer, layers of the wood are going to be drier than inside of it. Okay. So let's grab the Harley Benton. Okay. Here's the Harley Benton. And we got to do it on the back because the top is too contoured. And then this is Maranthe, which, how do you... Maranthe is not in the list. I already looked. And we can call it maybe African. Oh, let's do, I think I use Sapele as that's got to be pretty close, right? Sapele. And that is 0.6. So it's the same as the ash. And we got to go with the grain again. So 7.3% on the meter. Right there. 6.1, 7.4, and that's set at 3/4. So it's going down into. So let's change the depth to 1/4. See if that changed any. 7.1. If it's lower than 6, it won't. It'll just read 0. 7, 7, 7. Okay. So that's pretty dry. So then here's my Heritage H150, USA made right here in Michigan. So let's check that one out. So I'm not going to poke this one, obviously. This one's genuine mahogany, which I don't even think that's listed in here either. True mahogany. It says true mahogany. So we'll call that true mahogany. 0.47 for the species. Okay. And 1/4 inch. So, okay, so we're going to set it right. 8.1%. 8.8, 8.8, 8.7, 9.7 up by the neck, but there it could be, you know, because of the truss rod or whatever, could be throwing it off. So let's increase the depth to 3/4, 8.5, 8.7, 8.8. Okay. So this guitar is actually, was that 7 that the Harley Benton was? But they're all pretty close. And then just for fun, we'll do this is just a Donner Strat style. It's poplar. So now we got to pick poplar out of the list. 0.42. Oops. And we'll go 1/4 inch depth. 11.6. That's pretty wet. 13.7. Oh, that's over the control plate. 14. 11.2. 11.7. Okay, let's do the 3/4 inch now. See if that changes anything. 11.4, 10, 11. Okay, so it's consistent. 13. Okay, so this is poplar. We're getting less dense, okay? That's important. So then this blew my mind. So this is a Squier Classic Vibe Telecaster. It's a pine body. And there's a bazillion different types of pine listed in here. I'm assuming it's just white pine. Western white pine. Because Western white pine is 0.35 on the species chart. So let's just do the 0.35 and see what it says. I mean, oh, it's so ridiculous. It's just, I don't know. I have to laugh. Okay, so we'll do the 1/4 inch depth for now. Whoops. And we'll try it out. 15. 15.7. 14.5. 15. 16. 11. That's where the cavities are, so it makes sense that that's... So let's go the deep. So remember, Dylan's guitar measured 18.5. 17.8 on the 3/4 inch depth. 16, 15, 15. Okay. 16, 12, 12. Now, hardware could, I mean, all that could be influencing. You don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not an expert on all this stuff. I don't really care. But can't even talk. But what I will say is, okay, so the guitar here, let me show you that. The Squier Classic Vibe hanging on the wall over there that you can barely see because it's in the dark. It's under a window, and that's an outside wall. Okay. Now this is just speculation. I have no idea if any of this makes sense or not. The other guitars that hang up are on, that's an inside wall. Behind that wall is more basement. So it's possible that this exterior wall is more damp there because it's right up against the dirt. You know. And so this guitar could be absorbing more moisture because it's near the wall, near that damp wall. It could also be that because it's pine, you know, less dense wood, I would assume, I mean, we can Google it real quick to find out. I would assume that less dense wood is going to absorb more water or water faster. Does pine, I can't even spell, absorb water faster than ash? Yes. This is the AI overview. Yes, pine absorbs water faster than ash. Softwood structure. Pine is a softwood and more open and porous grain structure which lets water move inside quickly. Ash is heavy, dense hardwood and tight cellular arrangement. Because it's tightly packed, ash resists moisture infiltration better than pine and swells or decays more slowly when exposed to damp conditions. So anyway, whole point is I'm done with this moisture stuff. I mean, I've built guitars before and never worried about the moisture content because all the wood I get comes from a local mill and it's all seasoned, dried. I mean, I'm not cutting logs out of, which actually brings up an interesting tidbit. My friend Glenn had bought a lumber mill, one of them portable trailerable lumber mills, and he had cut some ash down on his property, and I mean, we made a guitar out of it. I don't even, and we didn't kiln dried it. We just stickered it and dried it in his shop or my shop. I can't remember. And it dried. I mean, I don't know what the moisture content was. We never checked, but we put it on my CNC machine and cut a Telecaster out of it and made a guitar. And it worked. It was fine. So my conclusion with this whole Dylan Talks Tone thing is that the moisture content of that guitar was irrelevant. That he was going to cut it apart regardless. That the moisture meter he bought was simply a prop just to, man, I can't tell the moisture of the inside, so, I'll cut the guitar apart and check the moisture inside. It was theater. It's what it was. He even said as much. I don't think he was going to like that guitar no matter what. He and the Harley Benton crowd are going back and forth about these guitars. So, and I got caught up in it because I thought, wow, I want to check that out. Man, that's, why is that guitar so wet? And it's I don't believe it was. He was either using the meter wrong or it wasn't on the right setting or something was up when he tested the inside of it. Maybe it took on, he said it's damp where he lives. Maybe it took on moisture. Maybe it had moisture. I mean, when mine shipped, like I said, it's the package is full of desiccants. So, I don't know. Anyway, I'm tired of talking about it. I am going to do one more review on this on the Harley Benton. Neck's still straight on it. It's holding tune. I just played it the other day. I took it to band practice the other day and played it. And it's great. It's a great guitar. See, still in tune. And it's been in and out of the garage. I took it, it was out in the garage for overnight. Because I brought my stuff, actually a couple days it was out in the garage, because I brought my gear home from band practice and just left it in the garage. So, I don't know. It's all just bullshit. It's all bullshit. These guys don't like these guitars. That's fine. They don't like them. They're never gonna like them. It doesn't matter. My video is pointless. I am preaching to the choir. You guys that like these things know they're good. You like them because they're good. You like them because they're unusual. I mean, it's hard to get them in the United States, so they're kind of out of reach a little bit. It makes them more interesting. Just like the Firefly guitars. They've got a huge following because they do drops. Like they'll drop, a handful of guitars, and then like that one I had with the flame maple neck on it. That thing was, I shouldn't have sold that. You'll probably never see that one again. That was a fluke. That was, they got lucky with the flame maple on that. So, but I don't know. I don't know why we argue about this shit. Why guys like Dylan and Texas Toast now, he's getting into it with me in the comments of my video. He's going on and on about how he can't understand why anybody would buy a cheap guitar. It's like, I don't know, man. I mean, I know they're selling guitars and pickups and everything, so they want people to buy their shit. I would think that Harley Benton guys would be the perfect customer to buy Dylan Talks Tone pickups because I don't care for the sound of that thing. So, you know, isn't that, you know, he talks about how modders would, you know, that modders would love these guitars. Modders love them. So aren't you, isn't that your crowd, your customer base? I don't know. So I'm just exhausted talking about it. It's just, you know, so that's it. But I am going to do like a review on this here maybe next week after it's had a little more time to sit. I mean, whatever, it's bullshit. So, but I'll talk about the pickups and everything. And I am gonna do where I replace the pickups and try something different. But I played it at band practice on Sunday through my Fender Deluxe tube amp, and it sounded great. I changed the strings on the Heritage yesterday, and now I don't think it sounds as good as it did. So, and there are different strings that were on it, because it had Diodario strings on it. I put Dunlop strings on it. So we're arguing about tone and wood and all this bullshit, and there's absolutely nothing about each guitar is unique. You know, even if okay, let's just say, oh God, all right, let's just say tone wood is a real thing. You know, I've heard people say that, oh, you got to play a Gibson. You know, if you're going to shop for a Gibson Les Paul, you got to go into the shop and play a bunch of them to get the one that sounds good and feels the best. So what that tells me is every single guitar that you buy is a one-off guitar. It could be made in the same factory with the same slab of wood next to each other by the same dude, and each guitar could sound slightly different. Especially if you guys believe in tone wood. You know, especially if you believe that hand-wound pickups are better than machine-wound pickups. That means that every single pickup that's wound by hand is going to sound different from even the same model of pickup is going to sound different. It's like you can't have it both ways. You can't say that, oh, the tone wood and all this other stuff, and then not believe that each piece of wood is unique. But it's like, why are we arguing about all these little details? And then people are just like, oh, well, the amp and the thing, and when I put strings on that, it made it sound different. And fresh strings as opposed to strings that have been sitting on a guitar for a long time. Tube amps versus solid state, they both have, you know, tones that are a little different. You throw an EQ on it, it's different. You know, so it's like, if tone wood is a thing, then it almost doesn't matter, because it doesn't change the sound of a guitar that drastically. But guys are like, oh man, I can tell the maple is so much brighter than the rosewood. It's like, right, okay. Anyway, like I said, I'm done talking about moisture. I'll review that guitar in a little bit. Got a Chill Cat coming, hopefully today. So we'll be reviewing that. So anyway, Jayce Allan for Jayce Allan Guitar. We'll leave the amp on for you.